So today we will be looking at web development. In web development, we're trying to build websites or web apps. So we will start by, in our root folder, we're going to create a couple of files. So if I should go out, I find myself in T2 and my root folder is called web dev. So I am using an IDE or Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to drag the folder right into Visual Studio Code and the project opens there. So in this project I can see media and there is nothing in media yet. That's because I haven't taken these two files into media. Great, they are now found in media. So when I click, I can find my video and my audio file, but in my browser I still have nothing running. So the first thing I'll do is I will try to have everything run automatically by using a live server. So on Visual Studio Code you could come and just type live server and you should be able to download. Yeah, it's this first one. Permit you actually, whenever you save a file, it actually runs the file without you having to rerun it yourself. So we'll go straight and start a project. So we're looking at HTML first. So HTML is a web language. It's not a programming language, but it helps you to actually build the interface of whatever you're doing. So I'll create the first file. It's going to be called index.html. Okay, we call it index because on the server, whenever the index file is found, it runs it directly. So I'll go ahead and run our live server too. So our live server says it's running on port 5500. So to have access to it, I'll simply come here and I do local host colon because I want to put a port, and great, I'm having a blank page because I haven't written anything. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, it will probably make the work easy for you. So I'll toggle between this nav bar just by doing Ctrl B. So I'll just start typing HTML5. So I want a boilerplate. When I click here, I get the starting code for HTML5. Great, we know it starts with a doc type, document type or less. Then we have the language in which we will be writing. Here's English. I don't mean the coding the language we're using in coding. So here we have some meta tags. So character set simply defines the characters we'll be using. Is it compatible with Internet Explorer, which is today Edge? Then now it actually helps us to build with the viewport. It actually helps us to build a web interface that's going to be responsive, so your user experience on mobile and desktop won't be horrible. So I'll change the title and write T2. Then just to see if it's working, I will do a div and just say hello world. No, hello prime tech, even though we have prime tech. Let's see if it works. So we save. Oops, this guy is not yet running it live. Great, but we can see it running. So we'll just try to see the basics of HTML. So we'll start with building a table. So to build a table, all we need to do is we start with the tag table. We can have a class attribute in it depending on how we want to style it, and then once we created the table, we can actually create the table head. In the table head, let me first take away the table head, then we'll understand what we're doing. So here I try to do table row, and I could do table data. In table data, I could write here data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4. If I save that, we can actually see data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4. all of them in one row because we have defined just one row here. We want to have it on 2 rows. The moment I do this, we are able to see it on 2 rows. But now we realize our table does not have borders. So let's try to go the old school way and actually define our styles inline. Here, if I just do this and say 1, we get a border of 1 around the table. Yeah, but no one does this these days, so let's try to do it in a better way. So to do it in a better way, we should equally know that every table, okay, I could start by equally doing this. So rather than having TD, that stands for rather than having TD, that stands for table data, I could equally start by creating table heads instead. When I create table heads, if you see, it's darker because that's a reference to the data below. So our table heads actually define what's below. If we take a receipt, for instance, you might see the cost of the article and so on and so forth. So should I do this and I duplicate, we're able to see here's the table head and then we have the table data below. If we want, we can equally make these heads just by coming here and changing. If I want table 1, this particular cell, to become a heading, all I need to do is I come here and instead of TD I do TH, and you see it goes bold. Yeah, you can do it for any other cell. You can actually merge some cells together. If I'm merging across the row, I use a row span. I will use row span to do that. No, here I'm merging across a column, so I'll use column span because I'm spanning between 2 columns. If I want to span between rows, I use row span. So you have col span and row span. Okay, I'm not going to do it here, but you can actually just Google it and you'll find how to do it. This is because we have so much to do. So that's all about tables. Yeah, it's very simple building a table. So yeah, but there's something you can equally do today with HTML5. You have the possibility of actually building a table head. So in my table head, I could carry all of these and just take up. So I have a table head. You actually don't see the difference in the UI, but let me just show you 1 or 2 differences. Let me just show you an advantage of doing this. So if I do this and then I duplicate, instead of table head I do T foot, now you realize it has actually been inserted at the bottom of the table. This helps us organize our table properly, and when you do this, remember T body. Great. All you have to know here is in everything you do, you have the head, the body and the foot. So the moment I do this, yes, my table is well presented. You might not get the advantages here, but the moment you start using libraries like Bootstrap and other extensions, you'll find that organizing this way helps your code. Okay, so that was it with tables. Now let's move to forms. Okay, forms, that's a big topic, but we'll try to do our best to cover it. We won't be looking at all form elements. So a form element is simply a UI element, what you see, what you actually fill information in. So to do forms, we actually come here, form. Great. When I save, we see nothing. Yes, because we haven't written anything here. So I'll take the case of when you're trying to create an account on most platforms like Facebook, where you're asked to give a username. That's actually an input of type. That's actually an input of type text. I don't think I will actually write it myself here. Input of type text. When I save, you can actually see there's an input here. Yeah, at times it's beautiful to do this placeholder. So this is going to tell the user which information he's supposed to put there. Right, username. So you see username comes in there. So it's telling the user put your username. The moment I click and I start writing, username disappears. Great. So you could equally do it this way, username, and then the user actually sees like he's supposed to put his username here. Either way is fine. If you're trying to gain on space, you can actually take this out and leave just this, especially if you're targeting mobile. Okay, so should I do this and actually try to get a number? Let's say I want to get a person's phone number. We'll actually come here. We could still leave it text. Let's see what will happen. They all line up on the same line, but that's not actually what I wanted us to catch. So I'll come here and actually insert a break. BR stands for break, so it's on the next line. So here I can actually put a number. Yes, because this is not the number I'm inserting. I'm actually inserting characters, which are more or less strings. We'll see this when we get more into programming. So if I want to oblige the person, but see, the person can actually add letters. But if I want to oblige this user to have only numbers in here, integers, all I'll do is, okay, like have it in the next line. I'll actually come, instead of text, I'll put number. So this way, the user, if they try putting in a letter, it does not work. But if they try putting in a number, it works. But E will equally work because that's for exponential. Which other form input elements do we know? As a matter of fact, it keeps going to the next line because I'm using prettier. You can see prettier down here, so it helps format your code. So I think doing, if I wrap everyone in a div, I don't think it's going to do that anymore. Great, it keeps the code in place. That's because divs are block elements. Yeah, you can actually do some homework. Look at block and inline elements. That's more of CSS. So great. So I've just done a comment. So that comment is not going to feature on the page. Okay, let's proceed. We have done numbers, we've done names. What else do people usually request for? Yeah, okay, password. Great. Someone could say, what's your password? Now see, if I do this password, the funny thing is the moment I'm writing my password, everyone is seeing, oh, it's still on number. So if I should come here and I put it on text, oh, see, as a matter of fact, if I don't put anything, by default it is text. So I'll be able to write. Great. When we are writing this, anyone can see, and that's not the intent of password. So for passwords, I'll simply come here and write password. This will permit anyone type in, I think the placeholder too should match. Placeholder here should be number, and oops, number, and below should be password. Great. So the moment I'm typing the password, it's actually hidden, right? Great. What else can we find? Usually we find this beautiful one. Date of birth. Yeah, and then people don't know what's happening. That small calendar that comes up, I mean, it's automatic. When I click, I can actually fill it in. Great. Change months and all whatnot. Great, nice. Okay, when you go higher, you could actually have something like, let's say you're trying to permit people choose their colors. So the moment you write this, it actually permits you choose a color. And here you should be familiar with hexadecimal codes, because with the different codes you obtain, you should know how to use them to actually define the specific color you're trying to get. You could use a color dropper to pick a color from somewhere, yeah, and all of that. So that's the first part of forms. So we're looking at the input tag. Great. There are some other two input tags we haven't looked at. Okay, let's go right away. I'll put a horizontal rule here so that separates the code. So the other input tags we want to look at checkboxes. So I'll put here input. I'll go down to checkbox. Boom. Okay, usually we use checkboxes when we're trying to get the person's gender. No, not gender. We're asking him to make a choice. So we'll give him a series of options. So we could come here, probably we'll ask him to choose between different colors. So I'll give, or let's say, language. No, for language we'll use radio. Language or gender. Okay, anyhow, if we use language, this will mean probably you could speak more than one language. So what are we going to do here? We'll say language for name, and then we have to give it the value. In this case we have to give it the value. We'll probably just say EN for English, and then at end here we'll write English. So let's see how that presents itself. Great. So but what I want to do is I want great to go below. So when I do this equally, I will try to send it to the next line by doing a break, and then let's say I do English, French, Pidgin. Yeah, let's keep it to those three languages. So English, French, Pidgin. Just say PD. Great. When we save it, we have these different languages. But now see, with the checkbox, I can actually check multiple options here. And please, with checkboxes, if you can see, they all have the same names, right? And now I actually forgot to mention something up here. With input elements, you need to give it a name. This is what PHP and other server-side languages will be looking for. The moment you don't give a name, they won't be able to get the value you filled, or the value you've chosen. For such things, we choose, or we fill. Here we actually fill. Here where we choose, and actually get in a certain format that your backend language is supposed to recognize. Or not actually recognize, but handle. So please, the moment you're using checkboxes, make sure they all have the same names. Yeah, the values now should be different. Now we'll see. Let's look at radio element. It actually help a great deal too. So we could let's say we're trying to get the person's gender. You can have only one gender. That's why radio elements are good. So here I'll do this. Then I'll come here and do input. I'll come to radio. Radio should be right down, so I'd rather go up. Yeah, that's the syntax for radio elements. So here I'll probably say gender. Okay, I'll try to have it messy so that we understand what's happening. So here I'll say male, and then I'll keep a break. So here, good, we see a gender when we click. But now you see you can't unclick. Checkboxes you can check and uncheck, but here you can't uncheck. That's the thing with radio elements, because you must choose one, and there's no point giving one option. Great, let's create another one. Given that gender, we're trying to get male and female. So here value, remember these two input elements are special, checkboxes and radio. They go along with their values. So here for the value, I'll probably put here male, and here for the value I'll have it as female. Okay, great. Oops, I did not change the visible value here. Okay, remember we're going on the fly. These are all attributes, all what we find in here until here. These are attributes, and this is a tag. The tag is just the series of characters immediately after this first opening. Oops, sign. Great. So you don't see tag, you don't see attributes. When we're looking here, we don't see the attributes. See the amount of code we've written, but here you are not seeing any of it. You see only what is between the tags. So what is out of the tag, that's what you're actually able to see. So please bear that in mind. So here we've given male, female. Now let's see something. If these names are not the same, let's see what we're going to get. One is genders, one is gender. This will now permit the thing act funny. Say we're able to tick on both because they don't have the same names. So please, when you have such a mistake, when you have such an issue, don't start shouting. Just remember that probably is because they don't have the same name. The moment they have the same name, when you click on one, it goes to the other. It depends. If you had languages and you expected your users to use just one language, you could actually use radio elements too. This will prevent them from having many. I hope we're getting that. Okay, great. So if by default, see, if I save, when I come here, I could move through and not click on anything, and I'll go. But if I want the person to actually have one of them checked, I make sure I have one of them checked. The moment I write checked there, you see, it's checked automatically. It's the same thing for the people up. So if by default I want the user to be English speaking, I will leave that here. If he comes and he's not English speaking, he could actually change. But this here with gender will permit the user, will oblige the user to always have a gender. Great. Now let's go to our for form elements. We have select. For select, this permits the user actually choose from options that have been given. So I'll go ahead and do select. Here, when you do the select, you actually now put up the options you want people to choose from. So for options, or the first one, I could actually say choose a country. Here, then for the next ones, I just go ahead and list a series of countries. Angola. Oops. Angola. I should give it a value. I think Angola should be AN, if my memory is okay. We'll just cite a couple. Angola will come to Cameroon. Probably go Nigeria. Nigeria should be NG, and let's finish with something like Rwanda. Great. So we have these options. So choose a country. I have the possibility of choosing a country. Yeah, all of this is still HTML. Great. So after the select, the next thing we can do is but then see, if I come to these countries, and I usually do this with the backend language. So I could actually come here and say selected, and when I save, Cameroon comes up immediately, so it becomes like a default value. Nice. So now let's try to look at I think there's something left again. Select okay, great. Text boxes, text area, sorry. Text area is what we get on WhatsApp. We all use WhatsApp, I guess, even Facebook. So oops, I'm gonna do this. So when I save, you see the big box where you write the long chat and everything. That's a text area. Yeah. Usually gives you the possibility of doing all of this, so you can make it fixed too. So is there something we've missed out? Let me actually go to W3 schools. As a matter of fact, everything I'm saying is not new. You come to W3 schools, you find everything there and much more. Yeah, learn HTML. So here I'll try to go directly to form element, forms. It should be up here. I don't know why I'm going right down. Forms. Oh, okay, good, forms. So if I click on forms here, you see that's a special area on its own, because it's something you must know. You can't be doing HTML without knowing forms. So we've looked at the form tag. That's what permitted us to start what we're doing. We looked at input. We saw different types of input. We'll definitely have far more here than we've covered. Text area, no, this is just for the text field. This is under input. Please come and read here and you get more information. What I'm giving is just a summary. You get radio here, you get check boxes, submit button. We'll end with the submit button. Name, the name attributes, exercises, blah blah blah. Okay, anyhow, they have segmented theirs. So you find these form attributes, form elements, input types, all of that. All we've done is a summary. So at the end now, what we now need to do is we have to create a submit button. So there are a couple of ways to do it. I could just say input, and I make the input type submit. The moment I make it submit, now let's see how it looks like. Good, here's a submit button. So if we need it on a separate line, the first thing we need to do is we do that. So it goes on a separate line, but now we need to give it a name. So to give it a name, we give it a value. We could say send now. Great, we see the send now, right? If we click, it's actually going to submit. You can see it's been refreshed here. Let's just have some text here and see. When we click, it's sending somewhere. But because we haven't defined where it's supposed to send to, the action is actually going to tell us where to send it to. When we go a little bit further, we could have index.php and it's going to send to index.php, but it does not exist now, no need. And then usually you're expected to define the method you'll be using to send. We could either have post or get. These are the two methods that are commonly used. If you don't define any method, like it was the case a couple of minutes ago, it's going to use get by default. When it uses get, you're able to see the parameters of the form in the URL. You can see a language, en, gender, male. This is because this is what we have filled. And remember, look at something. When you use get, you must see the question mark, because it's telling you it's about to query some information. So should we fill everything here? You see what I'm going to get up there. So when we click, you find far more information here. Are we together? Great. So now see, but I can try to submit. Okay, this is because this has default values. Let me go and remove those default values. We have language is having a default value there. Language, great. Language, we go and remove the checked. We come down here, we remove the checked too. Great. But now we click, it still goes. But you might realize on some forms you might be filling and then they tell you, sorry, you haven't chosen your country. So it's just by adding the word required on the tag. When you add the word required, what happens now is if I try to send, it will tell me, oops, I refresh, then probably having something wrong. Name required. Why is this not working? Let me see. Gender. Wait, let me come to date of birth for instance and see. Required. I hope I spelled it correctly. This is what date of birth. Great. It should tell you, sorry, you haven't filled it properly. Okay, we have these two. That's why the required wasn't working, because something was selected already. So if I should try submitting, it tells me date of birth. If I fill the date of birth, it should still tell me I haven't chosen the right country. Great. And now it can go. Yeah, just going nowhere. So that was it with forms. Okay. The next thing we'll be looking at is paths and links. It's rather unfortunate that we deleted our table we created. Okay, great. So we'll do this. Control A, Control X. We'll try to come this way, and we create that was forms. So we'll do forms.html and we'll paste the code in it, and then we'll create another table called, another page called table.html. Table. Great. So table, I'll rapidly create a table HTML5. Okay. Okay. So to create a table, the first thing I do is I just do the tag. Then T head. I'll do TR here. I'll do TH. I'll probably say, I'll do like on a class list. I'll do ID. Usually ask for your ID, name, probably what, date of birth. We'll keep it simple. After the T head, usually very easy doing T foot. I just do the same thing, and I do T foot. Great. Now I am to do T body. I do TD this time. TD or ID, the first person is always 1, and let's say the first person's name is Achu. and the date of birth. In fact, I'll put age instead because getting date of birth is usually an issue. I'll say age. Let's assume these are primary students, so the first person could be 7 years old. Let's try to have 5 of them. The first next person is what, 6. The next person could be called Delta. This person is called Andre. This person is called Sophie. This is what, probably 9 years old, probably 10, or probably 4. Another name, a last name, let's give Paul. Great. So well, we haven't seen anything here, which is very normal, because here, as a matter of fact, see, I've saved the table, I've saved form, just I've not saved index yet, and the moment I save index, we see nothing. We see nothing because the index page is empty. We can say forms index table. So here we're trying to create links. So what I'll try to do is I'll say HTML5. I'll come up here and say links. Great. I'll come here, I'll say go to, I'll now create a link. So to create a link, we start the A tag, they'll do href. So it's a hyperlink, it's trying to go somewhere. We have 2 types of links. It could be relative means it's going to work just within the same folder, or it could be absolute. So let's have the relative link. I want to go to our tables, right? So I'll say table.html. I'm referencing it, and here I come and say tables. So when I save, we see tables. Oh, the guy is sleeping, I don't know. Tables. When I click, it takes me to tables. Oh, as a matter of fact, our tables is lacking something. It does not have borders. Yeah, it needs borders. Just make it look a little bit good, though it's not really good. So border, I leave it at 1. Great. Now we can go back. Let's create another link to go to forms. So go to form. Was it form or forms? Because yeah, let me make a mistake so that we try to catch up. If I do this, see the link says what? Form. Look right down here. When I go to it, it says form instead of forms. We can see it's called form. So the moment I click on it, it won't go. It's broken. Cannot get that, right? So I need to come here. Oh, this thing again. It needs me to do BR. Oh, did I do it properly? I didn't do it properly. BR. Great. It's still going to take it anyhow, but you understand what's happening. So I need to come and correct here on forms. These two are actually relative links. Now let's create an absolute link. An absolute link must start with http. Now I'll put an S for this. Domain names that are secure, like Google. No, why we use Google? Everyone knows Google. Let's say Mia.academy. Great. And yeah, I say go to Mia.academy. And I save. So if I click on tables, I go to tables. If I click on forms, I go to forms. Yeah. If I click on Mia Academy, it takes us to Mia Academy. Remember, this time around, Mia Academy is not found in this folder. It's an absolute link. Great. So now, what we should have in mind is the fact that depending on the internet connection too, might take a while. Great. What we should have in mind is, with links we're able to go to one page, and from the other page to come back, we simply create another link. There are 2 types of links: relative links and absolute links. Great. On that, we move along to for media elements. So here we're looking at, okay, I guess you should equally know about headings too. So media elements. I told you about block and inline elements. These are block elements. An inline element is something like A. You see the A. That's why, okay, Mia Academy, we go back. see, if I do not put the breaks, realize you're on one line, right? Because links are inline elements. Links, input, span, they're all inline elements, especially all form elements. Well, the ones that exist today are all inline elements. So let's try to look at media elements. For media elements, we're trying to add pictures. Pictures, what else? So let's go to this media and grab a picture. Trying to add pictures, audio, videos, and with that we need to understand paths very well. This is a path 2. Good. Path, not like in part 1, part 2, but path as in PATH. Yeah, path. How do I reach there? Okay, let's try to download a picture here. So I'm going to save this picture. Save as I try to leave it on the folder drive T. T2. Okay, I guess we're working in T2. Web dev. Great. So I come and I save it. I'll just call it logo. Great. So we'll go back to index. Now let's start. We'll start by adding a picture. So to add a picture, all we need to do is to do img, or now the source. They're asking us where is this picture coming from. So we need to get the picture, we must get into media and then we'll pick the picture. So what I'm going to do is I'll say this means search in the same folder. Then I do media, then I go logo.png. Great. When I do that, boom, the picture comes. You can see here's a picture. Great. What you should know is, remember, // means search in that same folder. In that same folder, // means search here. Here, can you find a folder called media? When you find media, you get into media and you pick up a file. Remember, files have extensions. So the moment you see an extension, know that is a file. Like this, table.html, that's a file. But the moment you see a slash, know this is a folder. You should know that. If you don't know that, you have things very tough. Great. So we're able to add an image, but if the image is coming in a size that you do not expect, you can actually sorry, but we're just getting to CSS a little bit. So I'll just come and style it and give it a width. I could change the width and say just 200 pixels and suppose to reduce. Yeah, this one we're trying to fix it to a specific width. Yeah, so that remember we're trying to build an e-commerce platform. So on an e-commerce platform, we need our images to all have the same width. You can't have a big image, small image, big. No, it doesn't make sense. Great. So we've been able to add an image. Now let's add. Now let's try to add an audio file. So to add an audio file, we simply do the audio tag, which comes with the source, and the source in the same way we're going to do just as we did here. So you need to know your paths. So let me see, how do I get my audio file? I start here, I search in media, and then from media I get spot.mp3. So I do that. Let's call sports.mp3. But now we realize something. See, something is happening. Yeah, we've saved it, but we're not seeing it. We don't know if it's even there. But now let's see if it's there. If it's there, we can just say autoplay, so that it should start playing all by itself. Now it's playing.
Mia Academy is introducing to you your digital learning assistant. Are you
great? This is because you haven't added the attribute controls. When we add controls, we'll be able to see it. Now, see, it comes just immediately after the picture. Just let me go to the next line. This means it's an inline element. It's not a block element. So if we wanted to achieve block elements, we would simply do this. We'll simply come and wrap them around divs. Now wrap around div. A div is a block element, so it's always going to send the next person down. Great. And now you see, I can play. I can go forward.
Info line plus 75 731 671 or 655 95 3774. Mia Academy, my education just gets better.
Speak faster. I mean, even on WhatsApp, you should have noticed that. Great. Then I should be able to come here too and do video. To do video is simple. If you've done audio, to do video, just go and change the other guy to video. But now let's see something. Let's see something interesting. If I do this, remember this is a video tag, but this is an audio file. A video is simply a combination of pictures and audio. When you have pictures, many pictures in a series, and then you think it's live. I mean, we have many pictures put together in a series, and then it appears like live, and then there's a voice or there's an audio attached to it. That gives you also a video, right? So if I play this, it should work.
Academy provide.
It's a video tag, but it works. So don't forget that. But then we want to have a real video. So our video here is called advert mp3. I guess you should know the different formats. mp3 stands for what, mp4 stands for what, and all of that. Go to W3 schools and get more information. Google and you get more information. Great. So here we have our big video. It's so big that we can't catch it. So one thing we could do is I'll just come here and say width equal to let's say 400 pixels. It should bring it to a size we can manage.
Mia Academy is introducing
digital
digital learning assistant. Are you
much
looking
more.
for
Remember,
learning
on
material
YouTube,
or revision exercises? Have you finished an assessment and would like a teacher to correct it for you? Do you need vocational school guidance
You
on
do
a
this on
career choice?
Facebook.
Mia Academy does all this for you.
You're able to link the
Mia
video here
Academy,
and
in
continue doing
partnership
other
with
things,
competent
right?
teachers,
Even YouTube
offers
does
you
that.
a smart learning assistant.
Good. All of that is embedded into HTML5. Nice. So we've seen forms, we've seen tables, we've seen media, we've seen paths, and we've seen links. So on that we say thanks, because we're done with HTML. Now let's switch directly to CSS. Okay, so just from where we are, we'll try to do some CSS just to see how it works. So remember, we did some styling somewhere. I don't know, we did style. Great. This is already CSS. This is what you call inline CSS, because you are doing it as an attribute. But now that's one style, that's one way of doing CSS, which is not the most advisable. The second way of doing it is actually adding the CSS directly into your HTML file. First one was inline, adding it directly into the line as an attribute. This one, you're actually adding it to the page. So on this, for instance, let's say I wanted to, this image, I want to have its borders. I want to see the dimensions of this picture. I'll simply get the tag. I'm getting the tag img. Img is for our image, right? So this is how you're able to catch the tag, by doing img, and then I could come here and say border. And then for border, I give the dimensions of the border straight away. So I say 2 pixels solid right, for instance. And when I save, good. It's from here. Now, there is no way I can touch audio, I can touch video because of the tags. But if I touch div, see what happens. If I touch div, it takes all the divs that exist in that file. So you have to be very specific when you're trying to touch something. If I touch div and I want to touch the div that has an image, all I need to do is I give a space and I do img, and now it's going to affect just the image. If I want to touch the div that has a class called, let's call this head. If I want to touch the div, oh no, it won't work. This won't work. See, if I do this dot head, it won't work. Why is it not working? Because head is not found in a div. It's not found in a div. Head is alone. Get the head, right? Head here stands alone. But now remember, I added a dot here because we're trying to get a class. If we're trying to get an ID, see, if I come here and here I said say ID, you see the other one is not touched because class is referenced with a dot. If I do a hashtag, it gets the next one, which is the ID. So ID is referenced by a hashtag, class is referenced by a dot. Yes, I don't think there's so much to learn with CSS. CSS is getting so vast. So the one thing I'll try to do with CSS now is I'll try to do padding and margin. Good. If we see what we have on our screen, we see there's very little space around, I mean, here on the left and on top and bottom. So I can actually achieve a better UI there by, if I say padding, if I add some padding to it, say 10 pixels, it's going to add 10 pixels on the top, right, bottom and left, in that order: top, right, bottom, left. If I save, you see some padding has been added. If I want to add the margin too, I simply do this and I say margin this time, and it adds more but outside. So the border actually defines where you have margin outside and padding inside. Yeah, I think that's all I will teach on CSS. You can actually change colors by, yeah, Visual Studio does this. So I'm able to come here and switch the color, come maybe to green, and yeah, it's now green. And if I should save, our guy now is green. That's done with Visual Studio Code. I don't know the other code editors you might be using. Oh my god, yeah. So I think I was using red, something around here. Yeah, great. So that was it with HTML and CSS. If there are any questions, you can ask before we now go to the assignment and get done. Now speak. Oh, we achieved that during the homework. Okay, one last thing I would like us to do is, okay, good, we're looking at these styles I put into the file. What if I don't want the styles to be in the file, which is one of the best ways to go about it? I actually cut this, no more styles. So what do I now do? I actually come out and I'll create, usually we'll call it assets. In assets we'll call it CSS. That's what we'll keep all our CSS files, and then I'll call this style.css. Great. So style.css is found in CSS. So I'll come here and I'll paste those styles, but then I'll remove the tag. We no longer need the tag this time. Great. So we want to attach, so let's see it here. We want to attach this CSS file to the index.html so that it can work. If you don't know paths, remember we just did paths now. If you don't know how to use paths, then you're lost. So I'll come here and say link, and I'll tell it I want to link a CSS file. So here is the tag. I'm sorry, it's a link tag, but it's trying to reference the style sheet. And now it's asking href, can you point us to that style sheet? Oh, it's just a coincidence he named it style 2. Huh? You could name it anything. Oh, let me just go and change the name because people are funny. Style 1, I'll call it style 1. Good, so I'll come here and call it style 1 too. Style 1. But now it won't work because it's not touching it yet. Just like we did with media files now. I'll come here, search in the same folder, get assets, and then get CSS. Now it should work. Great. So we're able to go and get that file and come and run it here. This is the best way to do it, especially as a beginner. It keeps your code clean and you're able to handle styles here, come and handle your syntax here. Now let's take it one step further, and that's where we'll be closing, which is we're trying to use Bootstrap, right? We talked about Bootstrap. I think we'll do that in the next video. Okay, thank you.